is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and let's just get into this. So, first off, I want to start by talking about how I may sound a little different than I normally do, and that's definitely because I am under the weather. I am caught some sort of bug, and I'm ready to be over it. I took a shower with one of those Vicks tablets in it, and I got some tea going, and the show will go on. So just bear with me. I sound pretty funny. I've got sick brain, but I promise you we're going to make this a good one. So I wanted to talk about weird things that people collect. See, I was sitting around my office and just kind of noticing all the weird stuff that I collect and my husband collects. And I was like, well, what are some weird things that other people may collect? Because I know that if there are people who are not into the same things that I am and they walk into my office, they're like, oh, what? What do you got? Versus, what somebody else may have. So let's start out in North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's a man named Manfred S. Rothstein. He owns 675 back scratchers from 71 different countries. I mean, come on. How crazy is that? He owns 675 back scratchers. I don't own one. I don't own one back scratcher, and he owns 675. And from 71 different countries at that point. Like, good gosh. I mean, even he's got to know that he's got like way too many back scratchers at this point. I don't collect back scratchers, if that's a hint to what I do collect, which I'll tell you about at the end of this podcast. Let's move along to chicken-related items. Yes, you heard me right. Chicken-related items. So, in Eckhart County, Joanne or Joan, Joann, I'm not 100% sure, and Cecil Dixon collect chicken-related, it's the sick, it's coming on. They collect chicken-related items, including magnets, ornaments, and planters. They have collected at least 6,505 chicken-related items. 6,505 chicken-related items. Like, what is that? That's kind of crazy to me. I don't know. I found a few pictures that have to do with each of these particular collectors, and I'll see if I can't post at least some of them. Definitely this chicken one, because you see the two of them and they're so happy in their house, but they're just surrounded by like unnecessary amounts of chicken-related items. So I'll definitely put a photo up on our Twitter, which is at GSMC_Weird News, and our Facebook, which is GSMC Weird News. And I will definitely post photos there, and so you guys can see the ridiculousness that is 6,505 chicken items. Let's move along to water. Actually, we're in Italy, and there is a man named Lorenzo Pescini, Pescine. I'm gonna butcher these names. I'm sorry. But Lorenzo owns a collection of 8,650 different water bottle labels. Like the the little paper bit that's on your water bottle that you buy at the store. He owns 8,650 different water bottle labels from 185 different countries. What? That's insane to me. I don't know. I just think that's it's a lot. It's absolutely a lot. Now I can kind of understand doing or collecting back scratchers or chicken related items, but the paper part of the water bottle label, I'm not 100% sure on whatever significance this means to our friend Lorenzo over there or what it is, but he loves them water bottle labels, I guess. Let's move on. Let's move on to airline barf bags. Once again, you heard me right. I said airline barf bags. Now, if you've ever been on a flight, you've probably seen some of those. They've got the little barf bags that are in the front pocket, the pocket that's in front of you, in the seat in front of you, with all the ads and stuff that are always trying to sell you Lord of the rings and stuff when Lord of the Rings has been out for very many years. That's just something I notice every time I go on an airplane. But anyway, these barf bags, let's go to our Dutch collector. And once again, I'm going to absolutely butcher his name. Nick Vermillion? Am I dumb? Is it Vermillion? Okay, anyway. And it's N-I-E-K. I'm not sure if it's Nick or if it's Neek. We'll call him Neek, because I like the way that sounds. But Neek has 6,290 air sick bags, or barf bags, from 1,191 different airlines, and almost 200 countries. That's a lot of barf bags. The picture that I saw of this guy, I'll definitely post on the Twitter, which is at GSMC_Weird News, or the Facebook, GSMC Weird News. I will post them probably in both places, but the photo that I saw of this guy was definitely hilarious, and I want to post it. I want you guys to see it. But he is laying with his arms folded underneath his head, and he's chilling out on a mountain of barf bags. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know why you'd save the barf bags. I don't know if there's any sort of monetary value in those. I mean, there seems to be monetary value in majority of the things that people do collect, but I'm not 100% sure about monetary value on airline barf bags. So let's move along to one more while we've got a chance, and let's talk about miniature chairs. I love mini chairs. I love miniature everything. Everything miniature is just adorable. But let's move to miniature chairs. Now, Barbara Hartsfield collects miniature chairs, and she has a record-breaking 3,000 mini chairs. That's a lot of mini chairs. And she's not a mini woman. I saw the photo, and she's not a mini woman, but she's got a chair, huh? Oh, I can still make jokes even though I sound like I'm underwater or holding my nose. So this woman's got 3,000 mini chairs, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I love a good mini chair. There's I believe it was a place you get your oil done, like a Valvoline or something like that. And when you walk into their, this is in my town, when you walk into their waiting room, there's a really small chair in the corner, and they try to give you some sort of story about it, how it was some guy who owned this place in a mini chair for him because he was mini or some, I don't know. It was a really unnecessary story for a mini chair in the corner of a auto shop. I wouldn't even call it an auto shop. It's a Valvoline. It's an oil shop. But I don't feel the need for this story because it really didn't make much sense and didn't sound true at all. So they're just trying to get you to sit in this tiny chair, which I did because I'm a tiny person and it was a fine chair. But let's take a quick break. And when I come back, we'll talk about some more weird things that people collect. And as we get closer to the end, we'll talk about things that I collect too.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about weird things that people collect. And I want to keep along the lines of weird things that people are collecting and move along to milk bottles. Now, there is a 37-year-old former milkman named Paul Luke who has been collecting milk bottles since he was 9 years old, that's a long time to collect milk bottles. He also hopes to increase his collection of already over 10,000 different milk bottles. That's a lot of different milk bottles. I saw this photo of this guy with the milk bottles, and I think milk bottles are so cool looking. Honestly, obviously we don't have milkmen anymore in the US, at least that I know of. But the milk bottles look cool, and I honestly would love to have a milkman still. I love milk. I think I've talked about this before in another podcast back when, but I am a big fan of milk, just regular milk. Well, and chocolate milk, and also most things mixed with milk, hot cocoa, that kind of thing. I love milk. That's just me. So I think these milk bottles look really cool. Love a milkman. Let's move on. So, you know when you go to a hotel and you get those signs that you can put on your door for do not disturb so the maid doesn't come by when you're, still sleeping or doing whatever you do, or you're in your room in general, because usually you want them to come in when you're not in there. It's just more comfortable for you and more comfortable for them and that kind of thing. But anyway, back to the do not disturb signs. So there was a man, Jean-Francois Varetti, who has a collection of do not disturb signs. His collection of these signs has grown to over 1,000 or 11,101. Wait, 111? Okay, 11,111. I got that sick brain today, guys. I'm not going to try and say things properly. But anyway, he's got that many different signs, over that many different signs at this point, from across the globe. So I assume that everywhere he went, he just took a do not disturb sign. And that's the same with this, the guy we talked about earlier that was the airline barf bag guy. He seemed to really kind of do the same thing. I can see how this could obviously be like a keepsake thing that starts as a keepsake and then just turns into a full-blown collection obsession type of thing. But do not disturb signs. This guy's got a lot of do not disturb signs. And I also, once again, don't know if there's any monetary value in do not disturb signs, but there might be. So, I mean, who knows? Now let's move on to something that's a little more on the strange side, but I also found has a very high monetary value. So let's talk about a man named John Reznikoff. He holds the world record for the most celebrity hair locks in his collection. He has a collection of celebrity hair locks, not just like a piece of hair, like a lock of hair. So, and I'm talking about like celebrities, you're like, how did you get that kind of hair from? Because obviously he's dead. So we're talking locks from Abraham Lincoln, Neil Armstrong, Marilyn Monroe, and Albert Einstein. And those are just to name a few people that he has actual hairs of locks from. Now, to talk about the monetary value about this, I don't know if he bought this or he sold it or whatnot, but this is just kind of to explain the monetary value. John Lennon's hair, like a lock of John Lennon's hair, once sold for $48,000. One lock of John Lennon's hair sold for $48,000. Now, I love the Beatles. They are my number one favorite band, but I would not pay $48,000 for a lock of John Lennon's hair. I mean, I don't know. I thought that was really insane that this guy literally collects locks of hair, and his collection alone is worth more than most people's anything. More than most people's houses and stuff like that. So this is really like a kind of thing that shows that it's, the monetary value is really important. But at the same time, I bet this guy was collecting celebrity hair since before that, which is a little on the creepy lines. But let's move on from celebrity hair collecting to banana labels. Now, I always take the labels off of whatever fruit that I have, and like my first instinct is to either put the label on my head or somebody else's head. And I'm talking about like forehead, like right dead center in the forehead is where I want to put the stickers. I never thought about keeping them around, but Becky Maratz, M-A-R-T-Z, I'm not 100% sure, has been working on the world's largest banana label collection. And the last count that I could find of labels that she had was around 19,631 labels. That's a lot of labels. That's a lot of bananas. Becky, geez. Now, because of this collection, Becky's become actually pretty famous, and she's become pretty famous because of this banana label collection, and she, just this constantly growing banana label collection, and actually has began another collection of broccoli bands, like the bands that hold broccoli together. I don't know if those are going to be as interesting as banana labels, but I mean, how interesting can banana labels be? They entertain me for a good, 15, 20 seconds, and then I'm over it. So I'm not 100% sure what she hopes to accomplish, but I'm wishing Becky the best of luck with her collections. Now let's talk about one more before we take a quick break. And let's talk about Louis Meisel, M-E-I-S-E-L. Can't pronounce it, but that's what it is. So Louis spends hundreds of thousands of pounds on his property in Soho collecting trees. Now, he's the first person that I could find to collect trees, and his collection includes 20 species of beech trees, all purchased from individual sellers. And, when you think about it, trees take up to 60 years to grow, but can also cost anything between $150,000 to $200,000. Now, this is an expensive hobby, and you need a lot of land to collect trees. That's just it. I guess I wouldn't, since he's doing this as an actual hobby collecting trees, I wouldn't put it on the same kind of thing as people who are, have a farm full of Christmas trees or something like that. I would put this on another level. Louis seems to be the guy, the first one at least that I could find, that, does this, that he actually collects trees and spends so much money on it. I couldn't find a lot of extra information about it, but I thought it was really strange and really interesting that there is somebody out there that is collecting trees for a living. I don't know. I'll have to find a good picture and put it up on the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page, because I saw one photo and this guy is standing between some massive trees. I just want to, I need to find a photo of his actual property. What do you guys think about this? I'm actually really curious, and you should tweet me or hit me up on the Facebook and let me know what you guys think about actually collecting trees, and would you consider it an actual collection? Because I'm not 100% sure if I would consider it an actual collection. Now, let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk about some more weird things that people collect.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about weird things that people collect, and we're keeping on that train, keeping it moving, and going on to Graham Barker. Now, Graham Barker has the largest collection of belly button fluff. Now, everywhere that I looked this guy up, it was belly button fluff, not belly button lint, which is what I know that as, but, yeah, he's been collecting belly button fluff. Don't worry, it's his own belly button fluff. But he started collecting in 1984 and has about 22.1 grams of this so-called belly button fluff. Now, this is one of the weirdest things. I don't know why this guy is doing this. There is absolutely no monetary value in this. There can't be. Not that I saw it. I don't know if he's going for a record or something, but man, that's a little too gross for my taste. So let's move on to McDonald's. Everybody knows McDonald's. McDonald's is all over the world. A little different all over the world, but still all over the world. Big corporation. And let's talk about Mike Fontaine. Mike Fontaine has a mind-blowing collection of at least 75,000 pieces of McDonald's memorabilia. Memorabilia, I don't know. It's that sick brain, I tell you what. But his collection occupies over 7,000 square feet of his house. That's a lot of his house. A lot of his area just covered in McDonald's memorabilia. That sounds like a nightmare, to be honest. But it includes around 1,000 McDonald's cups, uniforms, 11,700 lapel pens, old displays, and nearly every Happy Meal toy that was ever produced. That's insane. That's insane. This guy's got so much McDonald's memorabilia. He also has the Ronald McDonald mascot. If you remember, a long time, I don't know if they still have them in the McDonald's, but there was always like Ronald McDonald that was like made out of plastic or something, like semi-life size, but more kind of shorter so that kids could like sit with him, or he'd be on a bench, or he'd be standing or whatnot. Well, he's got one of those. He has so much McDonald's memorabilia. It's insane. I saw a photo of him in a portion of his collection, and it's ridiculous. Once again, I'm going to put that photo on the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page, so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because this is absolutely insane. This is so much McDonald's memorabilia. I would not. I would be terrified to wake up in the middle of the night and you got Ronald McDonald staring you in the face while you're trying to use the restroom. No, thank you. No, thank you. That sounds way too creepy for me. I'm out. So let's talk about something that's, I guess, along the lines of the belly button fluff, where it's pretty gross. But this is a lot grosser than belly button fluff. So Barry Chappell was on an international flight, and he couldn't smoke a cigarette. So he decided to start chewing nicotine gum. Now, instead of throwing away that nicotine gum, he kind of had this idea to keep it. And 6 years and 95,200 pieces of nicotine gum later, he created a 175-pound gumball. He also stopped smoking, so that's the plus. But still, this guy has a 175-pound gumball that he made out of nicotine gum, and that's absolutely disgusting. I'll also put a picture up of that too. It doesn't, I mean, it's a giant wad of gum. It looks like a giant gumball is what it does. It's disgusting. He reminds me of, I was watching, is it one of the Willy Wonkas of the Chocolate Factory, the old one? I don't know if it's Willy Wonka or Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I don't know. The names are the same. The movies are, yeah. I was watching the one with Gene Wilder, the good one. And, it reminds me of, what's her name? Violet Beauregard, who chews gum and then she puts it behind her ear because she's always going for some sort of gum chewing record. That's what Mr. Barry Chappell or Chappell or Chappell reminds me of. He reminds me of Violet Beauregard. That's just how it is. He reminds me of Violet Beauregard. Let's move on to Dalmatians. Now, everybody knows what Dalmatians are because of the 101 Dalmatian Disney movie. Love that movie. So good. And our friend Karen Ferrier is like a real-life Cruella de Vil without being an animal killer. So Karen Ferrier is obsessed with Dalmatians. Like, she loves the spot. She thinks they're adorable. She loves Dalmatians. And she has over 3,500 different spotted items. Different items that are Dalmatian related. She's got coats. She has shoes. She has little toys. She's got pillows. She's got all sorts of stuff that's just Dalmatian related. I am not the biggest fan of animal print on clothes. I just think it's good and gone at this point. But even if I did really like one specific animal print, I would not go and purchase 3,500 different Dalmatian items or whatever animal print item that is. That's just it's a lot of print for me. Let's bring it on over to the Gibbons household. So Bob and Lizzie Gibbons share their lovely home, with their collection of 240 love dolls. Now these are like human-sized dolls that look like humans and are meant to be companions and whatnot, but they're not real, they're dolls. But Bob and Lizzie love their love dolls and actually like to dress them up and take them on shopping trips. Now, the thing I found weird besides just the whole thing about this is when you look at the photo, or at least a photo that I found, he's sitting there, Bob Gibbons is standing there kind of with his arms around two of the dolls in his kitchen, and they're all set up just sitting around his kitchen like it's a normal day. And he looks like the most normal older gentleman that you've ever seen. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen. Hands down, one of the weirdest things I've seen. This, I don't know what their reason behind having all these love dolls in their home is, and I don't know if I want to know, but it kind of seems like they just want the companionship. It kind of seems like they just kind of want the companionship. I don't know if they couldn't have children or what it was, but they just seem to be the people that love having a good companion around, and they've got 240 of them that they can dress up and take on shopping trips whenever they please. I don't know. This is not for me. I noticed that I saved some of the weirder and kind of gross ones for specifically this section of the podcast, and I apologize for not spreading them out a little bit more, but once again, I got sick brain, and I am all over the place today. I mean, we talked belly button fluff, we talked McDonald's memorabilia, nicotine gumball, love dolls, and Dalmatians. What more could you ask for? Now, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk about some more just really strange things that people love to collect in their everyday lives, and then we'll talk about some stuff that I collect.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break and this entire podcast, we've been talking about weird things that people collect. And of course, we're sticking with weird things that people collect in this section of this podcast. This whole podcast is about weird things that people collect. Let's talk about Barbie dolls. Now, I've heard of people collecting Barbie dolls for a long time, so this is not so much a weird thing. But the thing that most people don't know about Barbies is that they're actually worth a lot of money. A lot of Barbies are worth a lot of money. Now, people can say the same thing about Beanie Babies, but actually there are not that many that are worth a lot of money. But we'll move on from that and keep with the Barbie situation. So Barbies are worth a lot of money, a lot more money than people think they are. Look it up, I promise you. They're worth a lot of money, especially ones that only came out once, or specific ones that are whatever edition that come out each year. Barbies are worth a lot of money. Now let's talk about Bettina Dorfman. Now Bettina Dorfman, her Barbie collection features over 6,025 Barbies worth over $150,000. Now, I assume that this number has gone up along with the number of Barbies that she owns at the moment, but I could not find that. Now, this kind of shows, I put this in here not because it's so strange, but because it really shows how much that things can be worth in the future, and that really is a lot of what collecting is. A lot of what collecting is keeping things that'll hold and grow in value. So let's talk about another type of doll. Now, this I found interesting because I didn't know anybody actually collected these dolls, and these are Raggedy Ann dolls. And Robin Amato, A-M-A-T-O, from Tampa, Florida, has over 3,000 Raggedy Ann dolls. Now, when I think about Raggedy Ann dolls, all I can think about is Annabelle, because the actual doll that inspired the Annabelle movies and all of that stuff is a Raggedy Ann doll that's kept at the Warrens' place in a box with lots of charms on it. But that's all I can think of, so I kind of wonder if Robin is like really, if she knows about this, and if she's like, no, it's not, it couldn't be a Raggedy Ann doll because Raggedy Ann dolls are sweet and great and this and that. I don't know. But, that's all I could think about when I saw this, and that's why I wanted to add it. Also because I didn't know that people actually collected Raggedy Ann dolls. Now let's move on to another childhood memory thing. Winnie the Pooh. Now everybody knows Winnie the Pooh. They do, and especially does Deb Hoffman. Now, Deb Hoffman's Winnie the Pooh collection has over 10,002 different Winnie the Pooh and Friends items. Now, the photo of her with all her Winnie the Pooh items kind of reminded me of the scene from E.T. where the girl is hiding in all the, or E.T. is hiding in all the dolls, and they can't tell the difference between E.T. and that because she's like in this basic, I don't know, like cocoon of Winnie the Pooh. It's really strange. I'll post the photo on the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page. I'm always on there if you guys want to come talk to me about weird things. Let me know what you guys collect. I want to know what you guys are collecting right now, because I definitely collect some weird things, which I'll talk about a little later, and I'd love to know what you collect, or if you've heard of some weird collectors that I haven't. Now let's move on to another item that like a lot of these items, I didn't know people collected them. But this is traffic cones. Now, David Morgan owns the largest collection of traffic cones with over 137, unique items of traffic cones. Now, this I found really funny because where does he get these traffic cones? You can't just up and get a traffic cone. I don't know. I don't know, maybe he like drives up to places where they're like doing construction, and he goes and he takes the traffic cone and puts it in his car and then drives away, and he's like, yes, the mint condition whatever traffic cone, I'm gonna put it in my collection. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not making fun of him. I just don't know. I couldn't find where he got the traffic cones, so I thought that was really kind of interesting because he has so many traffic cones, like 137. Where do you get that many traffic cones? I don't know. But let's move on to Paul Brockman. Now, Paul Brockman is a German-born contractor who resides in California, and he actually is the owner of the world's largest dress collection. Now, I thought that was interesting that the owner of the world's largest dress collection was actually a man, but there is a reason for this, and I'll say that in just a minute. Now, this dress collection actually has over 55,000 dresses, and the reason he has this many dresses is because they're all for his wife, Margot. Now, each year, Paul would buy Margot a new dress every time they went ballroom dancing. I thought this was super cute. But since he's been buying he's been buying Margot a different dress every time they went ballroom dancing, he's been doing this for about 56 years. He's been collecting with her these dresses for about 56 years. Now, the collection is so large that they have to store her dresses in a warehouse. And her dresses are roughly about worth about $1 million, all these dresses that are in this warehouse. Now, unfortunately, I saw that they are not able to keep up with the pay for the warehouse and are unfortunately trying to get rid of a lot of the dresses that they have. Now, in an article I was reading that they were talking about selling the dresses, they said the storage fees for all these dresses was just way too expensive, which I can understand. It's probably like super expensive to store 500 or 55,000 dresses. I would expect that renting out a warehouse to house 55,000 dresses is probably a bit on the pricey side. Now, I want to talk about this quote that I found from Paul about why he bought Margot all these dresses. He said, "When I bought each dress, I could visualize what my wife looked like in it. I never wanted her to wear a dress twice." Now, that's like super adorable, but also Margot had said that she's only worn about 200 of the dresses and has a lot to go. I was also reading that she was saying that she made him promise that he would not buy her another dress unless it was like exponentially special or like way super special. And, I just thought that was kind of funny, and it's also one of the sweetest ones that I found. It's really cute. It's really sweet that he's, spending all his time and his money, wanting to do this for his wife, wanting to buy a dress every time he visualized her in it and thought she was beautiful, and then they went ballroom dancing, and they're pretty up there in years at this point. Obviously, since he's been collecting these dresses for her for about 56 years. So, I mean, this is cute. I just thought this was pretty cute and also really strange. Not thinking that you would name, somebody like Paul Brockman, some contractor, as the, owner of the world's largest dress collection. So I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really sweet that he did this all for his wife, and then his wife now is like, now we gotta sell a bunch of them because we got too many dresses. We got too many dresses, and he still wants to buy her more dresses, which I thought was, super cute. Now let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk about some more, weird collections.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break and this entire podcast, we've just been talking about weird things that people collect and weird collections that people have around the world. Now, we are not changing that, and we are continuing with weird things that people are collecting around the world, and we'll start with underwear. Yeah, I know that sounds really, really strange. I know. But China's Chen Qingzhou, I can't, pronunciations, you know me at this point if you've listened to me before, pronunciations are not my best, and I'm also sick, so that doesn't add any goodness to it, but it's spelled Qingzhu is his last name. But Chen has a collection of more than 5,000 pairs of used women's underwear. Now, I saw this and I was like, what? Why does some man in China have 5,000 pairs of used women's underwear? Now, he claims he has them and uses this to promote women's health issues, but I couldn't really find anything else about it, so I wasn't sure if it was just like he says that so he can get away with collecting used women's underwear, or if he's really doing something good. So I'm not sure. I'm just going to move on from our friend Chen and talk about chamber pots. Now, if you don't know what a chamber pot is what people used to use as the restroom. Now, this was the toilet. The chamber pot was the toilet. There was no running water, no flush, no nothing. It went in the pot, and then you chuck the pot into the street. That's a real thing. But chamber pots are actually pretty high in collector value, I guess. I guess that there are a lot of people who love collecting different chamber pots. And I've seen them, and some of them look kind of cool, so I can understand it. But the idea that somebody has used this chamber pot before just kind of grosses me out. But apparently in London, there was a chamber pot that once sold for £3,850. So obviously they've got a high value. I just don't see personally the appeal in collecting chamber pots. That's just not for me. Also, I don't have $3,850 to throw at a chamber pot. So yeah. Let's talk about the British royal family. Now, this is not something that the British royal family collects. This is something Margaret Tyler collects, and she's from London. Now, I can't even say Margaret. That's my own middle name, and I can't even say it. Look at me. It's that sick brain, I tell you what. But, Margaret Tyler's house is a shrine to the British royal family. So she's got dolls and china and pillows that all have the royal family faces on it, or dolls of different royal families, and she's got curtains and sheets and photos and much, much more. I'm definitely going to find the photo that I saw with her in it and post it to the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter and also to the GSMC Weird News Facebook page as well, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. Because I couldn't really find numbers on her collection, like how much of this she had or how much of that she had, but I could find just photos and saying that basically her house was a shrine. So let's move on from our friend Margaret Tyler and on to somebody named Nancy Hoffman. Now, Nancy Hoffman is actually a Guinness Book of World Record holder for the world's largest collection of umbrella sleeves. She also plays the accordion, that's a thing too. But so she owns the world's largest collection of umbrella sleeves. And she might actually be the only person who really owns a collection of umbrella sleeves. She owns a collection of 730 different umbrella sleeves from 50 different countries. Now, I don't know what made her start collecting umbrella sleeves, but I couldn't think or find anything on anyone else collecting umbrella sleeves, so I bet if she had 10, she'd probably still be the world record holder. But she's got 730 different umbrella sleeves, which is kind of insane if you think about it. That's a lot of sleeves for an umbrella. Now let's move on to something I didn't know was a thing, but this is a thing. I guess that's all of these, isn't it? But let's talk about George Fraudenson, F-R-A-D-S-E-N, Franzen, pronunciations, I tell you what, aka the Indiana Jones of poop. I'm kidding you not. But George has gotten his hands on 1,277 samples of coprolite, which is fossilized poop. Now, his collection of fossilized poop was certified in the Guinness Book of World Records in August of 2016, and then in October of that year, he lent his collection to the South Florida Museum for a year-long exhibit. Now, if you had gone to this museum and saw his collection, this is pretty much what you would see. You would see coprolite from 8 different countries and a 4-pound, 3.5-ounce prehistoric crocodile poop, appropriately named Precious. Now, I think this is a lot, but also at the same time, this is kind of cool because it's fossilized poop. It's stuff from the, past. I almost said the future. Oh, but, it's stuff from the past. It's very, educational in a way, and it's not so much just strange. So I can understand that, he's got this large collection, but he's probably actually doing stuff with it. Obviously, he's putting it in museums for people to go see and learn about and that kind of thing. But also, it is just one of the weirdest things to be the one person in the entire world that has the world record holding collection for fossilized poop. I also think it's weird that apparently they call him the Indiana Jones of poop. I don't know if I'd like that name on my resume. I also don't know if I'd like just to be called that. The Indiana Jones of poop. I don't know. But I get where they're coming from with this name, since he is, he's going and finding this, and then he's got this collection, and then he's taking it to museums and, Indiana Jones stuff. That kind of stuff. I don't know. I think this was one of the weirdest, hands down the weirdest ones I found, because you don't think about it being a thing. If you go to a museum and you see this stuff, you're like, wow, that's kind of cool. Also weird because it's dinosaur fossilized poop or whatever fossilized poop. But at the same time, you're learning about it, but you don't think about the person who had to go find this or did go find this, or the person, how many different samples of this kind of stuff he's got laying around. And I guess he's got 1,277 samples of this that he's taking and putting in museums to really teach people about what's what when it comes to fossilized poop. And that's okay. I just thought it was interesting and something that we should think about. Also, the 4-pound, 3.5 ounce prehistoric crocodile poop. That's ridiculous. That's a lot. That's 4 pounds. Think about how much 4 pounds is. That's a lot of pounds. Let me tell you. But before I just keep rambling on about this, we're going to take a quick break. And when I come back, we'll talk about some weird stuff that maybe I collect.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking weird things that people collect, and I thought we'd switch it up a little bit towards the end and talk about some weird stuff that I collect. I understand everybody not everybody, but there are a lot of people who are out there and they collect different things. And that's totally cool. That's to each your own. I mean, seriously. But, I collect a lot of things. So does my husband. Our collections are kind of intertwined at this point. Not 100% intertwined, but they semi-are at this point. And so I thought I'd just kind of sit down at the end of this and really talk to you guys about what I collect. Now, I'm a big movie buff. So is my husband, and we collect a lot of DVDs. Now, a lot of times nowadays, people aren't really going for the DVDs. I have some, movies that are downloaded to my PlayStation or whatnot, but I also have an entire closet filled with DVDs. I collect DVDs. We buy DVDs, we watch them, and we just kind of keep stacking them up, and I don't know, I love DVDs. We also came into a collection of VHSs from a friend of ours who was moving stuff, and he wondered if we wanted it, and we said yes. So I've got a closet in my hallway that is filled with nothing but DVDs and VHSs, and I love every single one of them. My VHS player, unfortunately, doesn't work anymore, so, well, gotta get a new one of those. I also collect comic books. I unfortunately had an leaking accident in my house a few years back, and fortunately, all my comic books are in sleeves and whatnot, and, but my box was destroyed, so I recently got a plastic box to start putting them in, so I can, keep them nice and clean. I collect all kinds of comic books. I collect comic books that I really like. I collect comic books of, specific, heroes that I like or characters that I like, and just, stuff like that. I don't know. I also, collect, this is something that me and my husband both collect, and that is figures. We collect a lot of different figures. Him mostly in the Dragon Ball Z range, if you've heard of Dragon Ball Z, which most people have. It's a very, very popular anime, and, we collect a lot of those figures. I collect a lot of little horror figures and a lot of alien figures, so xenomorphs from the movie Alien. I collect a lot of xenomorph figures, and I actually got one recently that was a Christmas gift from a very good friend of mine, which is actually a Pikachu xenomorph, and it is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to see if I can't take a good picture of it and then post it on the @GSMC_Weird News Twitter and the GSMC Weird News Facebook page, because it is so cute. I don't know. I like those kind of things. We collect a lot of figures, which most of them are actually in my office and always pretty much around me. So, we collect a lot of figures, a lot of movies, stuff like that. Comic books, I collect a lot of comic books. And also a lot of, cards. So, my husband used to play a lot of card games, but I collect a lot of cards. Now, not baseball cards, but I collect Marvel cards, and I think the Women of DC, I have all of those. I collect a lot of like Judge Dredd cards. I collect a lot of cards. I don't know why. I just find them really, really fascinating. And the one thing about the stuff that we collect is a lot of it not only has a special value to us, but a lot of it actually grows in value. We have a lot of things that are still in box that are actually worth a lot of money. I've got a lot of comic books that are worth a lot and that kind of thing. And we collect for that monetary value, whether we get rid of it ever or not. But we also collect because it's special to us. And I kind of wanted to throw that in here, that it's, a lot of times when it comes to collecting things with all of these people that I've talked about in this podcast so far, is that it's, it's stuff that's special to them, whether, it's umbrella sleeves or, fossilized dinosaur or fossilized poop or, anything. It's all important to the person in one way or another, and it's special to them. I know that we collect a lot of figures, and a lot of them have, have gained a lot of monetary value, but we also collect a lot of figures that are just fun for us. Like I've got a giant Leatherface figure he's huge. He's probably like size of my torso, a little bigger. And he's just special. Like it's not that it's going to gain monetary value because I actually bought him for cheaper than he's worth because because he was a little broken, which is a good easy fix for me, but it's not like I'm trying to gain that monetary value. It's that I'm trying to really, it's special to me. That's really what I'm trying to get across with this in general, is that everybody can collect weird things if you want to. Like, do it up. Be a little wary though, because if you're collecting like underwear like that guy, or like the guy we talked about earlier, or something that's a little not too savory, it might be not a good thing, but collecting things is okay. It's a fun hobby. It's not a good waste of money, but it's a fun hobby. It's fun to have. It's, it's special and personal to each and every individual. And that's, every single one of these people that I've talked about, each of their collections have been personal to them in one way or another. Like the dress collection is very personal to the guy because he bought every single one of them for his wife, with his wife wearing it at least once in mind. And that was really special to him. And it was really special to her too, even though unfortunately they would have to start selling things, which I've done in my own collection as well. I've sold things, when I just couldn't hold on to them any longer, or I was, having a hard time with money or stuff like that. And that comes with collecting. That's really what it is. It comes with collecting. I've met a lot of people who collect a lot of things. And I've obviously just read a bunch of things about people who collect a lot of things. And it all comes down to the fact that it's special to them. And that's just what I want to say. Don't judge anybody for, what they collect, or, if they don't collect, that's to each their own. And it's special to everybody, and it's weird in its own right because it's always different. People collect coins and stuff like that you've heard about, and it's pretty popular, and like stamps and stuff like that, but it's still a weird thing, and it's just weird, but weird to every single individually. Collecting is weird, and that's great. And weird is great. Weird is great. Sick is not great. I'm super sick, and I'm so sorry about that, you guys. This podcast probably sounds a little weird, and that's just my nose and my stuffiness, and I'm so sorry. But I want to thank you guys so much for sitting here and listening to me ramble about these collectors and about stuff that I collect. And I want to hear about things that you guys collect, or if you don't collect. I want to hear about the things you collect, or the things that you've heard people have collected that are strange, and I didn't talk about in this podcast. I want to hear all those things, and you can find me at GSMC_Weird News on Twitter and GSMC Weird News on Facebook. Seriously, I'm always on there. Go hit me up, talk to me, let me know about your collections or whatnot, send pictures, and I'll put pictures up of a lot of these collections that I talked about in this podcast. And once again, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the GSMC Weird News podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. My name's Colleen, and seriously, thank you, and I'll talk about some weird news with you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.